Growing up poor in the rural South meant my little brother, Ollie, and I shared just about everything. Clothes, toys, and even the occasional skin infection were passed back and forth between us. Until he turned 6, we even slept in the same bed, something neither of us enjoyed. Everything changed on my 10th birthday. I only received one gift that year, but it was enough, my own bed. Ollie immediately envied it, and I couldn't really blame him. He was stuck with the old half-broken frame and the sagging mattress we'd both been using. Mine wasn't exactly luxurious, but compared to his, it felt brand new. Having my own bed was amazing. It finally felt like I had some freedom. No more waking up because Ollie had accidentally kicked me in the ribs. No more finding his foot somehow resting against my throat as though he'd spent the night fighting vampires. Or so I believed. The very first night after getting my new bed, the screaming began. At first, I figured Ollie had simply woken from a nightmare. But when the sound echoed through our tiny bedroom again, I realized it wasn't the cry of a frightened child. Once the sun went down, our room became completely dark. A tall pine tree stood directly outside the only window, blocking even the brightest moonlight from reaching inside. Every single night, always seeming to happen at nearly the exact same time, those piercing shrieks ripped me out of sleep. It wasn't my parents arguing. I knew that sound all too well. The strangest part was that I could never tell where the noise came from. One night it seemed to come from beside the closet. The next, it echoed from somewhere near the ceiling. Any excitement I'd felt about finally having my own bed disappeared, because every night after the screaming started, Ollie would quietly climb into bed beside me. He'd be trembling so badly he could barely stay still, wrapping himself around me and refusing to let go until morning was almost there. I'd squeeze his hand and whisper that everything would be okay, that daylight would come soon. The truth was, I wasn't convinced myself. As the months passed, the shriek began to change. At first, the difference was subtle, but over time it transformed into something wild and animal-like, a deep, primitive howl that sounded almost like an ape giving a warning call. It became so painfully loud that I had to press pillows over my ears just to endure it. Mom and Dad never believed either of us. Whatever was making the noise stayed completely silent whenever they entered the room. Somehow, they couldn't hear it through the walls either, despite how deafening it was to us. Things kept getting worse. Neither Ollie nor I could sleep properly anymore, and our grades at school suffered because of it. Sometimes I found it easier to doze off sitting upright at my desk in class than lying in my own bed at night. Finally, nearly a year later, we moved away. I was so desperate to escape those nightly screams that I'd even started imagining childish ways to end it all, just to make the noise stop. Thankfully, none of that followed us to the new house. It was an ordinary white home on a quiet dead-end street, and for the first time in a long while, life felt normal again. Best of all, there was already a bunk bed waiting for me and Ollie. No more broken mattress, no more separate bed that ended up being shared anyway. The only thing left to argue about was who would sleep on the top bunk. I told Ollie I should have it. After all, I'd gotten my own bed first, and he'd climbed into it every single night until we moved. He looked at me with a confused expression. "What?" he said, shaking his head. "I never did that." I'd spent years wondering why the screaming always stopped the moment someone was in my bed. Now I finally knew.